The valuation of AI solutions are totally insane. No one will say the contrary. Why are they insane? Is because we are literally building the companies that will shape the next, the next decade. So there is a big race, and you want to go faster. You want to have the best talent in order to win that race.
Hi all, very welcome back on Oleum. Again, I'm with my good friend Marcus, sharing that very nice moment with me. Marcus,
yeah,
hi.
Good to be back. Hey.
And so today we are quite excited one more time because we are with Thomas, from Plug and Play, let's say a young partner in this quite singular investment platform, which is Plug and Play, so born in Silicon Valley. And now Thomas is managing the EMEA region for them. Thomas, very nice to have you on board.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone.
So very quick intro on you. So you are a partner at Plug and Play, so quite a singular venture platform in the world, which was born in Silicon Valley. So really can't wait to have a bit more understanding of what you guys do, because I mean you do tons of different things in the venture world. So quite impressive in terms of journey as a company, and also quite curious to dig into your own past. So you've been an entrepreneur. I mean, you are now investing. You actually started your entrepreneurial journey, let's say, before you were like 18 years old. So quite early, let's say. So yeah, you've been an entrepreneur. You've seen a few ventures, like you see, like corporates. You studied a master degree. You ended up like working in venture capital. Do you think you can spend like 2 minutes essentially retracing your past and connecting the dots and letting us know a bit like why you chose in the end investing versus building?
100%. But first, thank you so much for having me. Maybe to tell you a bit more about my background. So it's true, I've been passionate about innovation and entrepreneurship since my really young age, actually. And when I started my bachelor degree, I started my first ventures and participated in a national contest and was then incubated for 3 months, and back then was quite a thing, right? So this was a really fun journey, but I was maybe a bit too young and not enough technical or business savvy back then to make it a success. But it helped me a lot to get my hands dirty and understand, what it takes to become an entrepreneur. Continued my studies, continue as well professionalizing myself all the time, by night, the weekend, and continue thinking about crazy ideas I could launch, which I then concretized. And it's true, it's quite surprising that when you have an entrepreneurship, let's say, passion, to jump that early to the other side. And why so? It's maybe, I would say, the fact that I launched a bunch of projects, I realized what it takes, and I wanted maybe to support entrepreneurs with capital, but also with my time and understanding on one front, and also to bring them a lot of added value thanks to the platform that Plug and Play created. But on the other side, to be kind of horizontal and see what was cracking the ecosystem. So instead of me focusing on one project for several years, why not first supporting many entrepreneurs on many different pain points, industries, and geographical zones with my learning, and also, again, the expertise and network that we created, to then maybe in the future again launch a company. Who knows?
So you would say that the major criteria was because you wanted to see more than one project and be involved in different things rather than focusing on one. That was like the sort of, I mean, not necessarily turning point, but the main argument for focusing on investment.
At least on the short and mid-term, this was my main ambition.
Mm-hmm.
When funnily enough, to tell you a bit the story, I mean, I've done like an exchange course in California, and during that course, we had like a study tour as well in the Silicon Valley main companies, right, to visit. And we went to Google, Meta, all that jazz, and then to Plug and Play. And at that specific point, I was doing an innovation contest for LBMH. And Plug and Play, Said Hamidi was telling, a lot about what he has built, but also his expansion. And at that time, he was opening in Paris in brand and retail with Galeries Lafayette, Kering, Richemont. And I was like, wow, I grew up in Paris. I love innovation, entrepreneurship. I want to go on the other side. Plug and Play is more than a VC. Plus, I'm doing this thing for LVMH and they're opening in Paris and brand retail. Like all of the planets were aligned. Like I could not have dreamt of something better than this. So I decided to take my courage and speak to Said while I was quite a young man back then. And I did not finish my studies. So I really wanted to show them that I was
True entrepreneur.
worth it. So started supporting them, besides my classes, started scouting, started doing a bunch of things, and they invited me the summer to Silicon Valley and Berlin, and then got hired right after. So that's a bit the journey and how I started at Plug and Play and why I decided to work there rather than in any other firm.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thanks for taking us through that. And yeah, like I say, you've got the true entrepreneurial journey, which is amazing. You mentioned you joined Plug and Play, so specifically, like it's a bit different, right? So what was it about Plug and Play that made you interested in this model specifically?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, on one front, Plug and Play has been investing in entrepreneurs since the 90s, right? So they've seen many different waves of innovation. And I like the fact that, rather than leading, we could be a strong strategic partner. And that startups, instead of us taking a board seats, will rather help them in a different way by opening doors, by connecting people. And this is something, that I always like myself on my personal life or professional life. Thus, I felt quite appealed with the overall thesis of Plug and Play on the investment front. On the other side of things, as you know, since 2012, Plug and Play developed this large open innovation platform where we've been helping more than 550 Fortune 500 corporations, but also government institutions to innovate. So how do we do that? Is we have a big umbrella of services, and our goal is to make innovation tangible, right? Creating a long-lasting, measurable impact thanks to innovation for our partners that are those large corporations and government. And I found that super appealing too, because we help, if you wish, the dinosaurs that are rich, but that are slow and they need to innovate and they understood the power of innovation, but they are really struggling to have access to trends, to find the best startups, to put in place the right processes, to make their collaboration smooth and successful, and then to industrialize it and potentially even invest and acquire, right? So they were really liking this and they could benefit from our network and expertise. And on the other front, we invest ourselves. So the best startups we meet here, we invest, and other startups that we invest, we can help them benefit from this network. So you understand this flywheel that is a really strategic model. So I found that really smart back then. And I thought I would grow my network and learn so much that it was one of the best opportunities that I could have dream of.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, so you mentioned, the corporate space, that there is, almost that they struggle to find startups sometimes or the right kind of business. And maybe it's different now, but back in 2012, I'm sure that was a big thing or a big gap in the market. Do you mind talking a little bit about, that as well, a little bit more? What is it specifically that these bigger businesses struggle with, and how do you come in to, help them with that?
Very good question. I think it depends a lot, as you said, on market timings, on also the maturity that they have when it comes to innovation practice. What we started with in 2012 was mostly, trends, startup scouting, and matchmaking. But then as the maturity of our partners grew, we've been co-developing a lot of new innovation services to support them across a longer journey of innovation. Some of our partners were doing, from A to Z. Some they leverage us for specific pillars. So it depends a lot. What I can tell you though, is everything starts with the right foundation. So what we found is all of our partnership, we typically ask to have a sponsor that get a buy-in, and this buy-in needs to come from the executive committee. So generally speaking, sponsor is most of the time someone that is a executive committee member. From
Sure.
one governance to another from large corporations can be really different, right? Like
Right.
innovation can be linked to CIO, to CDOs, to CTO, to CEO. It depends a lot. But typically someone from the C-suite. And then below we have what we call the champion. Champion also depends a lot from the governance, but typically someone linked to innovation or strategy, etc. And they're going to be more the day-to-day, bridging the board, the overall company's vision, mission on innovation, plug and play, the startups, and then all of the initiatives you will have with the different functions and business units. So if you don't put this in place with the right acculturation, processes, incentive, etc., you won't go anywhere anyway. Maybe in short term you can do some things, but mid-term, long-term, forget about it. So that's the first thing we help them with. The first, big department or bucket of services that we provide. When all of this is working well, you go to stage 2. Stage 2 is helping them build the innovation roadmap, prioritize the pain points, make it evolutive because the world is advancing really well, as you know. And then, building strong momentums with the different business units that are linked to those pain points. And after that is to explore and scout the best companies out there, matchmake them and facilitate POCs until their industrialization. And again, the end goal can be also investing on top or acquire those companies. It's so really A to Z. The maturity level from one company, from one specific country, one specific vertical may vary so much. There is no common rules, I'm afraid. And our goal is really to understand where they're at, what they've done in the past, what worked, what did not, if they partner with someone, and how they can benefit again from our expertise and network to make it happen and tangible.
Okay, so it sounds like a lot of politics to set that up.
Right. I must say.
So you spend a bit of time explaining that corporate relationships you are building both like to set up corporate VCs and more than that, essentially your own like network to support your investments. Do you think really in 2 minutes you could paint the picture of what plug and play is, like the different activities, how big they are within, let's say, the group, what it's like in the world? Maybe if you have a few numbers like to give us, so we can grasp the essentially like footprint and size of plug and play today. That would be awesome.
100%. So just so you know, Plug and Play is a family office. And actually, I don't know if the audience is aware of it. Saïd Hamidi, the founder, was not at all in the tech. All right, he's Persian. He left during the revolution. He was studying in California, and he decided to become an entrepreneur. And from that front, he started in real estate, and he launched a bunch of other businesses across the world that are doing great. But back in the 90s, one of his buildings in front of Stanford University freed up of tenants. And it was at that time that a lot of, new waves of entrepreneurs were coding in their garage innovative solutions. And Said, while looking for more professional tenants, told some of those entrepreneurs, what are you doing, guys? This is not a typical work environment. You guys should come in my building. And that's it, right? And he was lucky enough, this is why he called it the lucky building, to have as first tenant Sergey and Larry, who co-founded Google. And they left the building when they were 40 people. You can Google 165 University Avenue, and you will see the picture actually with the 40 employees of Google when they left the building. It's a pretty cool one. And you can still visit actually this building if you are in the Valley. Hit me up. And from that front, Said started falling in love with tech because he realized the potential, right? But Plug and Play was not yet created. That's the overall story. And after, supporting Google, other companies came in like PayPal, Dropbox, Logitech, Danger, which became Android, blah, blah, blah. And Said started investing his own money as a business angel. It's important to understand this context because this lead to, what he built in the future. And 10 years after, what occurred is he made some good money with some great exit, and he decided to professionalize his mission and industrialize what he has done. So he bought a bigger building, and he started investing in even more startups and welcome more entrepreneurs in his building, organizing events and all that jazz. And this was in 2000, and this is when he created Plug and Play. In 2012, after the subprime crisis, you had like all of the large corporations that were finally keen to collaborate with startups. And thus they came to our building and knocked at our doors. And this is when we created this large open innovation platform. So now that you understand the overall story of it, on the VC side of things, so we've been investing since 30 years, originally from the family office exclusively, until not that long ago. We've been increasing overall the amount of investments we made every year, but we've been for the past 10 years one of the most active VC globally, investing in more than 250 startups per annum. The family office is the evergreen, of course, and we've been backing over 35 unicorns at pre-seed or seed. So that's more than 2% of the unicorns globally that we invested with the family office. And because of this success, roughly 5, 6, 7 years ago, we started launching funds with external LPs. Now we have 11, and they all have different mandates. So some are generalistic, some are on specific industries that we already operate in. And of course, the LPs are generally some large corporations from our network. And then we have geographical funds as well, where most of the time we benefit from government LPs. The ambition of Plug and Play is to hopefully launch more and more to cover more mandates, right? So family office plus all of those different funds and benefiting from the rest of the platform. So that's the venture side. Going to the large open innovation platform. So we help more than 100,000 startups to date, working for WIS, our network of 550 plus large corporations and governments. In 14 years, let's say, we grew the platform again from 0 to more than 70 offices and almost 100 initiatives, plus 1,000 roughly employees.
So that's it. I mean, so why do you think, I mean, from my personal knowledge, I mean, I don't see any other like platform as successful as yours, essentially out there. So maybe there are, and I don't know them, and I'd be curious to have the names if you do. But why don't you think like more? We can't find more of those platforms because I mean, when you explain it, it makes a lot of sense. Like if you are a startup, very quickly, what you are trying to do is to get in touch with large companies because it's great to sell to very small ones, but generally speaking, churn is higher, etc. So you want big contracts at the end of the day, very often. So why don't you think there are not more of you out there?
It's a really good question. I think we have many different, call them competitors if you wish. I think in innovation, you don't have many competitors because everyone is kind of collaborating anyway. Even as VCs, we co-invest, right? But if you wish, I can use this terminology. I think one thing that really helped, or two things maybe that really helped Plug and Play was to, on one front, be born in the heart of innovation, and secondly, be global since day one. So one of our main edge is the fact that we are more than generalistic. We're verticalized, but on all of the verticals right now because we grew. But on the international exposure, we've been thinking global since day one. And this is helping us a lot, in my opinion. If you speak to some of our partners, one of the main unique value proposition they will say about Plug and Play is our global network and our global mandates. The second thing is, in my opinion, the fact that in our DNA, we never wanted to charge startup. So on the open innovation front, every time we are helping a startup, we do it free of charge and free of equity. The main sponsor of those services are, again, the large corporations and the government. And so we, on one front, want to support innovation, thus help the young ones to strive, grow, and change the status quo. But secondly, I mean, the dinosaur, if you wish, again, they need to catch up. So they need to invest, right? And they need to move faster than ever to benefit from the innovation of those young players. So I think that this model of not creating any bias and support really innovation for good by helping the ones that do not have resource to move faster and thus create again this flywheel to help the old ones catch up on their innovation and thus on their growth and competitiveness. I think this helped us a lot. So if you ask me to summarize the two things that helped us the most, I would say, are those two pillars. Now, something to remember is, I mean, we I've seen many different players locally, horizontally or vertically on wider zones doing kind of the same things that we do. It's sometimes slightly different, but what I would like to emphasize on, none of the other players are doing everything that we do. Like the umbrella of services that Plug and Play developed is enormous, plus the amount of deals that we do at the same time. So to have those two pillars of activities to create, again, strong synergies is something that we don't see much, frankly speaking. So we have a lot of different competitors, but none of them get such global mandate and those two main pillars of activities like we do.
I wanted to ask just on a personal note, like how, you've built such like an impressive career by many measures, right? So you're a partner at a global VC firm, I think quite a young age as well. So do you, like on a personal note, are you enjoying this? Is it like, are you getting much sleep? What's it like? Yeah, from a personal perspective.
I love it. I'm truly, passionate about what I'm doing, creating this impact, connecting people, learning so much from super smart people. I really love it. I'm a proud generalistic guy. I leverage a lot of smart brains, that are experts in different fields. But I'm the one who sees a lot of different industries, business models, technologies here and there, and I really love it. I really love learning. Sometimes it can be a bit frustrating, let's be honest, to not be an expert and pick the brain of people that are smarter than you to understand things at a kind of superficial level, let's say, in order to see if you want to risk it or not by investing. But overall, I really like it. On the geographical exposure, I mean, working for an American company from Silicon Valley is the best place to learn, let's be honest. I'm a proud European as well, and my mandate is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So in this specific mandate, we have over 30 offices. So you can imagine that I'm traveling a lot. So sometimes lacking a bit of sleep, I won't lie, but that's fine when you do things that you love it as well. Overall, can't complain, going to great conferences, again, meeting amazing people and making things move for the better. And when we see, startups rising, reaching new milestones, becoming unicorns, or see, some of our partners, large corporations or governments making like strong partnerships that are creating employment or whatsoever, it's amazing. It's really self-rewarding.
So back to Plug and Play. So I think PitchBook in 20, now like essentially ranked you like number 4 most active investment platform in the world. I mean, what does it tell you? Is it some sort of vanity metrics, or is it something you are quite proud of? Is it actually like some sort of KPI you guys are tracking internally, or is just some sort of vanity metric?
Must to have for sure, but it's also, great. The fact that we're able to invest in so many startups globally, because yes, we've been ranked by PitchBook and other platforms often like on the podium of most active when it comes to deals, but also most active when it comes to exits. So it means as well that, generally those startups are yielding to something, and our actual returns in monetary value, it's also in the Champions League. So overall, we are really happy to be that active, to cover the globe, and to continue investing and promoting our platform, because we know that startups, if they leverage it well, we can offer them a lot. If you check some of our unicorn stories, you will see that from day 0 or day 1, we've been supporting them. Again by entering new market, entering new industries, having their first customers, meeting some of the best VCs globally, pitching on stage at top-notch conferences, or having dinners with like ministers, etc. This is super rewarding, right? So more we do it, more we grow our platform. And I would say it's more than a vanity. It's something that we look up to, 100%.
Okay, no, super interesting. So, like, I think 6 years ago, you launched some sort of a product, like investment as a service. I mean, do you think you could essentially, you already spent a bit of time, like, talking about corporates, etc., but how does it work, like, in terms of economics? So you said you never charge, like, the startups. So you must charge to the corporate, imagine. And can you share a bit of the economics? Is it something relatively close to, let's say, a fund model where you act as a GP and by managing like the corporate venture capital arm of your X or Y company, you would charge some management fees and then like get your some sort of carried interest at the end? Or how does it work economically speaking?
Really good question. It depends on the model and depends on the thesis. What I can tell you is large corporations, so first I will tell you why I thought about architecting it back then. We were supporting large corporations again on mostly open innovation, from strategy, scouting, POC management, you name it. And we've been quite successful in it. On the other side, we are this VC since 3 decades now. Large corporations, most of the big ones, they also invest in startups. And I was like, why not supporting them as a logical evolution of what we do to benefit from our expertise of our second pillar to invest as well? So I was like, why not making our open innovation service umbrella to grow by leveraging our second pillar, as in any case, large corporations invest. And generally, they have many different initiatives. They have a CVC, they invest from their balance sheets, they become LPs in funds, they launch fund delegations, etc. So I thought this will make total sense. We launched it. The first full scope from A to Z, so from strategy ideation to sourcing to due diligencing to negotiating terms and managing portfolio, overall partnership that we had was, roughly 6 years ago, like day to day, actually. Now, the economics of it, as you can imagine, depends on many different factors. The first one is, do they want the large corporations to invest directly or indirectly? If the large corporations wish to invest indirectly, do they want to invest for strategic purpose or financial purpose or hybrid purpose, right? If they want to invest for a financial purpose exclusively, we will tell them become LPs in some of our funds. If they want to invest indirectly for a strategic purpose, maybe they can invest in some of our funds that are linked to their industry, correct? And if they want to invest even more strategic, like exclusively strategic, but not hybrid and not financial, maybe we can launch what we call a fund delegation, right? Like a white label fund where they will be the single LP kind of thing, and we will operate it for them, and they will have, the mandate to do the vote and all that jazz, but they kind of outsource a CVC, if you wish. So that's when they want to invest indirectly. Now, if they want to invest directly into startups because they want to appear on the cap table or for XYZ reason, they can leverage us as a service, right? So we won't be a fund manager here, but we can be an operating partner, if you wish. And when we manage as a service, so do they want to manage us full scope, or do they want to manage to leverage us? For specific services. So let's say maybe they want us only to do the scouting and the due diligence, or maybe they want us to help them define their thesis to do the rest all the way to portfolio monitoring. It depends. And here the economics when it comes to large corporations investing directly and leveraging plug and play as a service depends again on the scope of services, but also the thesis, right? Like, do we want to charge them only fees, or do we want potentially to take an equivalent of carrot? Might not be a carrot because, we won't be a fund manager, but we can find a way to define some royalties, potential remuneration as well, on top of the partnership fees.
And so there is no risk of conflict. So, I mean, you work with corporate A, you say, okay, we structure like your investment platform for you. But then you also have your funds on the side. Which one wins, when you have like one good company, I mean, and,
Totally
request. So, I mean, do you have some sort of, pre-agreement from day zero, essentially, where you say, okay, you benefit from our entire, essentially, sourcing capabilities in the end, more than just maybe a couple of people who will work with you. And then you have the possibility to essentially put money in those, maybe not as leads or maybe not alone, etc. But that's what you propose, or is there like, how do you manage essentially that
You got that
potential
right.
apparent conflict?
You got that right. So when it comes to open innovation, you will be surprised. I'm not speaking about investment, but for open innovations precisely, even two competing companies with the same pain point might ask us to approach the pain point in a really different way. What I mean by that is, they may want us, when it comes to the scouting criteria, to look at totally different things, like different TRL, different geographical zones, different technological components, blah, blah, blah. So again, here, sometimes it's not a matter of us scouting or not the same startup. It's just the scouting criteria may be really different, even for the same overall tech focus or pain point. When it comes to the investment, you're totally right. So of course, you have some funds or initiatives that get the priority more than others. And you can imagine that we cannot work with sometimes two similar initiatives. We need to prioritize. And so often what we do is we prioritize long-lasting partnership or the first ones to be concretized, etc. Like we have different ways to look at it. But today, the good thing again is our platform is big. We work in all of the different industries. So to date, we had the chance to not have such conflict yet. And when we have some, we know how to handle them really well. Just because our platform is quite big, so we've been dealing with so many competitors for so long. Out of 550 large corporations we work with, as I mentioned, we have sometimes in the same initiatives like two competing companies, like PepsiCo, Coca-Cola Group. They were part of the same initiative. In Stuttgart, we have a big automotive platform that we co-created with Mercedes that is called Startup Autobahn, out of which we have 35 large corporations in it, and Daimler asked us to bring Porsche, Audi, BMW, etc. They ask us. So, I think also in open innovation, large corporations, it took them some time, but realized that they cannot do things alone, and that you cannot stop progress, and you cannot stop your competitors to do innovation as well. So at one point, you better try to solve your own issues rather than looking at what the others are doing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, makes sense. It's
Understood.
interesting you mentioned Stuttgart. That's actually I'm from like about half an hour away. So it's it's car crazy city, so
That's for sure.
but yeah, going back to just the investment thesis and philosophy. So we mentioned I think you mentioned it, that you're kind of in the Champions League of the best VCs in terms of, or the best funds in terms of exits, etc. So what would you say, or what kind of advice would you give about how to build a portfolio? Like, what's the model that guides these decisions and has made them successful?
Really good question as well. And I think it depends a lot on your vehicle, right? Like Plug and Play, at least with the family office, our goal was to, with such a volume at a global scale, to try to find the best companies of every country and to help them locally with our team, plus our network of large corporations. And how we decided to build portfolios. So we've been quite strict originally. The playbook evolved a lot, and even more recently. But what I'm trying to say here is, back then we were really trying to invest in startups like max at A or pre-series A, always. We've been, generally speaking, investing mostly in B2B, right? And we wanted highly scalable companies, though we've done a bunch of deep tech and we are doing more and more. And the goal again was how to create a maximum synergy for all of those different solutions that we will back, and by benefiting again from our expertise network and the added value that we could put in place. Now the family office has been quite, again, extremely active when it comes to the number of deals. And now the goal with those new funds that we've been raising and that we are currently, ideating right now, is really how to kind of be active on the next front, which is taking a bigger position, fewer deals, and double down on the winners, right? So this is typically what we want to, at a high level, put in place, leveraging the family office to really edge on the market from all of those different key geographies, support them with our local team or teams that we have all across the world, plus our network of partners, and use those funds in Series A in order to double down and continue supporting them with new milestones and across new funding rounds.
Okay, great. That makes a lot of sense. So, in terms of, I mean, you mentioned a little bit of like the spaces that you invest in and like the stages. Everybody seems to be chasing AI right now. So, and I think you're maybe not like 100% bought into that camp, or maybe you're challenging it a little bit as well. So, yeah, do you think some VCs might regret it, investing too much into AI, or do you think it's not too hyped? It's actually going to return value. What do you think?
It's also a really good question. What I can tell you is, indeed, the valuation of AI solutions are totally insane. No one will say the contrary. Why are they insane? Is because we are literally building the companies that will shape the next, the next decades, right? So there is a big race, and you want to go faster. You want to have the best talent in order to win that race. So, I mean, again, our playbook evolved a lot. All of the VCs 5-10 years ago, you would have asked them like how they would envision like the beginning of AI investments and all that jazz. No one would have predicted it would have happened that way. What I can tell you as well is you have more and more growth / PE approach of investing when it comes to the AI mega round right now. With all of what's happening, it's pretty interesting. And this is also something that I guess no one could have really predicted back then. Now, I would like to also emphasize on the fact that we've been investing since AI since a long time, right? Now you have new wave of AI solutions that have been emerging with, the wave of generative AI. That's for sure. The thing about generative AI is you need to compute so much that this is also creating a lot of new opportunities, right? Like all of the foundation infrastructure opportunities that are emerging are super interesting for us. But also based on the LLM and the new economies with agentic, for instance, you are also creating new needs and new business models that are also there extremely interesting, and that we are looking at. And last but not least, and this is something that I already mentioned before, and it's reflected in our thesis, is the growing amount and successes, I think, of deep tech companies that will emerge. If you think about it, even if you were a highly technical person 10-15 years ago, when it was the omni-channel wave, you were, instead of building a deep tech company, even if you had like a master of engineering at Cambridge, you would have launched a marketplace. Opportunistically, this was smart. Then you had the SaaS, then you had a lot of different waves. The thing is, deep tech, even though those technical entrepreneurs, maybe they were dying to launch something in deep tech, the momentum was not good. The go-to-market was long, technologically, it was extremely expensive, etc. Right now, the digital era has been totally disrupted, in my opinion, by generative AI. Totally. A lot of those softwares will become commodities. So you as an entrepreneur or serial entrepreneur, if you are technical right now, you are thinking about the next blue ocean, and there are untapped opportunities, and they are out there. And on top of that, thanks to technological advancement, you can do it cheaper and you can commercialize faster. So for me, the momentum right now for deep tech is amazing. And Europe
So
is
how do you define deep tech? How do you define deep tech? Because I mean, everybody is talking about deep tech those days. So I mean, what's deep tech?
That's a really good question. I think it's a buzzword, let's be honest. But generally speaking, a deep tech is more than a typical software that you can imagine, right? It's a technology that is extremely robust, that may require a bunch of different IPs, that is highly defensible and quite hard to develop. And sometimes you can have also some hardware components. So it's not necessarily purely software. It can be hardware plus software. It can be also only hardware, and it can be also something linked to a non-digital company that can be, for instance, a new pharma formula or whatsoever, right? You have a lot of biotech. Is biotech deep tech? For me, yes. Any extremely robust and advanced innovation falls into deep tech. What requires a lot of investment in order to develop such innovation.
Okay, so it's something that requires some sort of research and development before commercialization.
Generally speaking, yes, quite advanced one. And a
Okay.
bunch of
So you
investment.
mentioned digital infrastructure. So with Plug and Play, you do invest in digital infrastructure too, or like If you had like a project of building a data center, that's something you would be involved with, or not at all?
Not at all. Though we will invest
Okay.
in startups that may help those infrastructure
Okay.
companies.
And so in terms of, so going back to AI, so you said there are some private equity plays, etc., which is, yeah, when you see the actors like last Anthropic fundraising, GIC being on board, you're like, okay, I mean, it's not a VC anymore. So you'd say that, I mean, maybe now the wave is past and it's a bit too late if you wanted to invest in AI, let's say, but would you say that the best bet was to enter early? Because I imagine that while you don't know how big the wave will be and how much of this will be hype versus concrete things, and what we can essentially be sure of today is, AI is here to stay. It will modify the way we work. It will modify tons of different processes, etc. That's for sure. Now, what we don't know is, is it super hyped, not so hyped, is there a bubble, blah, 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 blah. So now, I mean, as an investor, you are trying to make money out of your investments normally. So if you consider that now you can't really understand, where the wave is at, and if you see, external actors like dropping like 30 billion on the table, if you don't want an exit within the next, 5 to 6 years, you may think, okay, to make some sort of money, at least on paper, I need some sort of follow-up round, which would mark up the company as a higher valuation. My question is like, when you are a GIC dropping 30 billion, who can come after you to essentially push the valuation higher?
That's really true. And, as an investor as well, especially in minority one, those AI mega round, next liquidity events, they generally push you out. Let's be honest. What you've said is really true, but we also have counterexamples, right? Like no one would have ever thought that OpenAI will raise that much. And they've been continuing to raise and raise and raise at a crazy amount, and secondly, crazy valuation. The power law distribution is even more important when you invest at early stage. So this is why I was comparing that those AI mega round, even sometimes they are at early stage, right? Like look at AMI Labs recently, right? AMI Labs, they raised a total, I think, of 800 million in total. First round. So is it, an early company? Yes, on paper, though the way they've been raising cash, that's a series, what? F? So the thing is, the AI mega deals like AMI Labs, you need to see them as, again, a growth or a P investment. If you are thinking about, back then, 5 years ago, some AI companies that you may have been able to invest at far lower valuation back then, you had no clue if they will be successful, but that's fine. You want to spread your investment, and as part of the power law distribution, you know that in any case, 80% of your portfolio, might not return anything. And this is okay. This is part of the game. The only thing is when you do that, you want to bet on companies that have the potential to yield to 100x. And those moonshots, they need to be crazy business models that can disrupt a lot of things. So this is why I mentioned that the playbook has been evolving a lot. It's 5 years ago, we could have made such bet. Now we see less and less. Right now, the race is on bringing the best talent and creating crazy companies with amazing vision and mission, and just raise the most of money that we can in order to grow and play a big part or gain a lot of market shares in this in their respective field. We've seen also some companies that have been impressive and that did not raise. Like if you checked, what's the name of it? The Case 44, one of the indirect competitor of Lovable, just reached 100 million ARR with zero funding.
Wow.
So this can happen too, right? We've seen a lot of companies
Even the
money
power
as well
law,
raised.
even the rules around the power law are being redistributed.
100%. 100%. We really need to look at investment with different eyes. And I think, again, first, we need to take a lot of statistics with a pinch of salt. The first thing is, when you check right now where the money is going, everyone is telling you AI and all of the other verticals are dying. I think there is a remarketing of startups that we should really take into account, first thing. And secondly, the AI mega rounds, they're also creating a big bias in those statistics, right? The second thing that I would like to mention is the fact that those AI mega deals, again, we cannot look at them the same way that we used to look at investment before, right? It's a totally different approach, a totally different playbook, full stop. And no one would have expected, there is no VC that would have expected to one day invest like this. Or at least early stage VCs, maybe growth stage VCs. They've been doing that for a while. Early stage VCs, no one would have. And all of the early stage VCs are still keen to invest in mega rounds right now, which is positively surprising.
Okay. So maybe like to go back like, on maybe the founder side. So you've seen and met hundreds of different founders since you started. And when you meet a founder for the very first time, I mean, what are you looking for really in the first 5 minutes? When they come and maybe pitch you their project, does like maybe a due diligence process for you looks like? Because I imagine you won't spend like 15 days with an entrepreneur before saying, okay, we go. So what are you looking for the first 5 minutes, and what does the DD process look like?
A good question. I mean, again, it needs to be contextualized, but one of the first things that I will say is the team, of course, right? So we want highly skilled and complementary co-founders, that get great educations, great professional experiences in a specific field. It's always better. And last but not least, if they've been knowing each other prior or even worked together, that's great as well. And this is something that we value a lot. We are not huge fans of solo founders. Again, we can always make exceptions, but that's for us not market standard and not something that will.
And why is that?
Simply because, again, you want to benefit from different skill sets, and you don't want one single person after the hat. You want different people, different roles, responsibilities, and even better if they have a relatively same split of equity.
Really? So you would push for it's interesting because we had a talk with Sevan Marian, like the founders of Fleet. Essentially, there are two very similar backgrounds, did 50-50, and it worked out very well for them. But apparently, at the beginning, everybody told them, "Look, don't do that."
You are right. Like we generally don't like co-CEOs. We don't like people that get same background, etc. Because it's not playing their favor. No, we are not saying that this cannot work. I have a lot of counter examples of solo founders. I have some examples of even founders that were couple and that managed to crack it. We always have counter examples. Our role is to really try to understand, based on a specific field, industry, business model, market opportunity, etc., what it takes to be successful. And none of the VC have a clear crystal ball, but we've seen, based on all of the different failures in the market, what generally, it takes to be more successful and how you can avoid future mistakes. But of course, it's not a pure science, I'm afraid.
Okay.
But on the co-founder side of things, those are things that we value more. So if we grade them, we'll give them better grade. Let's put it that way, if you wish.
Okay.
But it will
So
not be.
maybe in terms of mistake you've made, reading people, like what were like the early mistakes you've made, at the beginning of your career, like as an investor, that essentially still shapes the way you look at people, you look at businesses. Yeah, if you could explain, maybe. I mean, I don't know if you've thought about this before, but like key mistakes you've made at the beginning.
Those ones are great. The ones that I just mentioned related to the teams are good. Also, like founders with a huge, two co-founders or more that get a huge gap, or leveraging previous company to launch a new one. and then bringing along some external funders. I can tell you maybe funders that are sometimes, again, it needs to be contextualized, but if you have a company that is not deep tech and all of your co-founders, they are too technical, you are lacking sometimes this business savviness. Something that I really, recommend, and this is something that I'm always challenging a lot the startups on, is early market validations. I think when you listen to founders, they're always telling you, no, we are too busy, building our tech or whatsoever. And I've seen some co-founders that were so hands-on and that understood since day zero, day minus, the importance of co-building, right? And having early, not necessarily revenue, of course, is always better, but early metrics. And this helps you so much, right? And I think it shows a lot your strengths as an entrepreneur and how hands-on you are, but also it will for sure, lead you to great successes versus the other ones, the European approach that is always develop first and then you sell. No, you should maybe take, well, the American approach sometimes is a bit too much on the extreme to sell things that you did not develop yet. I think the common ground of, co-development is the best, and many entrepreneurs are not doing that well because they find excuses. For me, you always have those three main pillars of developing your tech, then your market validation, so anything is linked to sales, and lastly, your funding. So you are raising to finance milestones of sales, but those milestones of sales, of course, you are answering a needs with a specific solution, right? So you need to play and jungle with those three pillars, and you cannot focus too much on one, leaving the other ones aside, because unfortunately, this may create a big failure. I mean, I can tell you a lot of things as well linked to momentum. It's funny because I've been here for working for Plug and Play for almost a decade, and a lot of super interesting startups or technology I found back then with top-notch team, like everything was stellar. The only thing is they launched it and the momentum was not good. The market was not ready. Then you see some competitors doing exactly the same thing, like 2 years after, and rocking the boat. And you feel sad for the first mover, right? So sometimes being the first mover is not necessarily a plus. It can be, unfortunately, a big drawback. So I have countless examples and learning, and this is always really interesting. And the most, one of the things I enjoy the most is, of course, meeting entrepreneurs, but also during our deal review when we have our team presenting our deals to challenge them and open their mind by sharing experiences on many deals that did not go as they were supposed to. And how can you explain someone who is young starting in the journey, oh, you should not do a solo founder, we don't like that, even if they are top notch, because it's always quite tough sometimes to understand if you never
No,
did the
for
failure.
sure. But it depends on the context, as you said. So maybe moving on to let's say like the larger context. I mean, we talked about AI. You know how it is today. So Atomico, the venture capitalist firm, like in the UK, produces like every year like a report on the state of Europe. And in the last one, essentially, there are only like 35% of European tech insiders that would believe that that Europe, can essentially play a role in this, technological changes and really define its own technological future. I mean, what do you think about that, really?
It's a really good question. First, I love this report, reading it and contributing every year. So I always advise people to do the same. It's true that when you are looking at the stats, Europe versus the US or China, like we are, I don't want to say dust, but we are not that big. But I'm confident we can do more. One of the first things we should do is to be better at keeping our talent, right? If we will be better at unifying Europe and making it even more attractive on many different fronts, I think our talent will remain. That's one of the first thing I would like to stress. The second thing is this European talent, they are top notch. We have great technical people, amazing universities, etc. And in some categories, we've been leading the way, really. If you check in microbiology, for instance, France is unbeaten, I think, globally, right? So I think overall in tech or in many different industries, Europe can lead. It's a matter of being more unified, having this strong, huge market that can play in our favor. And first, we need to solve our pain point. And by keeping our talent and attracting maybe even more foreign talent to Europe, hopefully we'll be able to create even more category leading fields and thus competing. But it's true that when it comes to capital deployment, when we're speaking about big checks, it's really hard to compete with American VCs, right? Post the Champions Leagues of deals, if they are raising big rounds, I mean, at one point for European VCs, it's really hard to compete when it comes to amount of capital they can deploy, but not only, also with added value or a stamp. So I think, Europe has been playing a big role. We've been improving a lot. We've been growing a lot. I remain optimistic. I think we are going the right direction, but let's see how it will evolve. Maybe the geopolitical conflict right now may, help us to wake up and change a few things for the best.
And do you think we will have soon a trillion euro tech company from Europe? And what would you say? Who's likely to be our first trillion euro company?
Could. I mean, a bunch are showing, a pretty sick growth. I mean, one of my favorite company in Europe is definitely Revolut. We did invest in N26 though, so this is not something that I can necessarily scream. But overall, what I want to say is, I mean, Revolut has been proving that, you can grow your company as a platform. You can decrease your CAC, you can increase your LTV, and you can grow your amount of users and expand to countries really aggressively with the same quality of services. And they are really positively surprising me when it comes to their metrics, and I wish them the best. And I do think this could be, besides AI, one of the company that could enter this category.
Why did you pick N26 versus Revolut back in the days?
So actually, we passed on Revolut because we already invested in N26. And for the story, we actually helped Max and Valentin to launch N26. So one of our first office internationally was in Berlin with Axel Springer. And we launched a big initiative where we were supporting cohort of startups and investing in them. And one of the first cohorts, one co-founding team launched a company that was the equivalent of TransferWise for their for parents and their kids, and we advised them to do a neobank instead. And N26 was created based on the address of our office, for instance. And we invested really early on. And we supported them actually a lot. We even introduced them to Peter Thiel. We then invested. So we've been supporting N26 for a while. And when we met Revolut, we passed because we didn't want to invest in competing companies based on the size of our portfolio back then. I was not yet working at Plug and Play, but I heard this story many times, as you can imagine.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned that you did some work with Axel Springer. So, that's like, I guess it's a successful corporate scheme or startup pilot, but sometimes it doesn't go well, right? So a lot of them, quite a few can fail, right? So how would you convince a CEO that the bet is worth it?
A bet is worth it for large corporations to be more active on open innovation, let's say.
Yeah.
It's simple. For me, if you don't innovate, you die. The synonym of innovation is growth and competitiveness. So undoubtedly, if you decide not to invest, the other ones will invest and gain in a specific edge, and thus will gain more market shares. What is interesting though, it's investing in innovation, not only, investing in order to get equity, but investing in open innovation initiatives, is that you need to do that continuously. And what I mean by that is innovation is so cyclic that every 4 to 8 years, you have disruptors that are disrupting the previous disruptor, right? And some startups, they manage to continue, innovating themselves. And some are being, totally absorbed by the new disruptors. So it's always really interesting. But overall, yes, this is what I would always recommend. large corporation C-suite. We've seen that a lot during crisis. During crisis, you have large corporations that are like, oh, innovation is not a priority. We need to cut that budget. And we have some that are heavily impacted by the crisis and they want to double down. You will be quite surprised, actually.
Interesting. And so talking about maybe like a case study, so you've celebrated recently 10 years with BNP Paribas in France, like in the accelerator, for tons of pilots, tons in productions, etc. I mean, what did it look like, at year one? How did it all start?
That's it's a partnership I'm actually extremely close to, as you can imagine. We celebrated, yes, in December, we celebrated our the end of the 9 years, and now this is the 10 years this year anniversary. What I can tell you, and funnily enough, the Mercedes story is really similar. We used to work with BNP Paribas, Bank of the West, which is no longer, by the way, part of BNP Paribas, and Mercedes at our HQ. And both partners, they had their innovation lab out there, and they were leveraging our services. And you can imagine that the plug and play HQ is really similar to Station F, right? So we have a lot of delegations every day of large corporations, of universities, of governments, etc. And we had their ex-com visiting Silicon Valley, and they came to plug and play, and they felt in love, like similar to me, right? When I went there as a student, and they were like, "But this is awesome! What we are doing out there. Why not doing that near our HQ?" And so they decided to expand their partnership and do something bigger near their specific HQ. So Mercedes decided to do that in Stuttgart and created Startup Autobahn, and BNP doing that in Paris. And it was when Station F was going to open. So we decided to actually position ourselves, and we were the first tenant of Station F back then. So, the partnership evolved a lot, and both those partners helped us so much, co-developed new innovation services. POC management, for instance, we developed a specific structure, way of doing things, a methodology, etc., with BNP Paribas, working extremely closely with their COO, and then the rest of the champions, plus all of the key stakeholders per projects, for instance. Same with Daimler. And the difference between the two is BNP wanted to keep this partnership exclusively for their group, right? So it was not only the bank. We work also with BNP Paribas, real estate, Arval, etc., etc. But Mercedes, they decided to open that up to the rest of the value chain of the automotive or the mobility industry. And this is why now this Startup Autobahn initiative grew to 35 partners.
It's a great name, very German. I love it.
And so regarding like corporate VC, so I mean, those are like successes. So, but sometimes, I mean, we've heard, and I think like the Emerald VC research essentially is pointing out that sometimes it doesn't work, maybe because of a lack of investment, as you said, maybe because management is changing. So ideas about investing in innovation is changing, and the way of doing things. And so when they reach that point of, let's say, failure, then they have like a few choices. Like, so one is to essentially sell the portfolio at a super discount. Like another one is to essentially outsource completely. So do some sort of a spin-off of their activity. I mean, what have you seen, regarding those, failure moment, let's say?
I mean, we are experiencing a bunch of failure, right? Successes and failure, both on open innovation and both on investment side of things for large corporations. What I can tell you is, I mean, in this industry, you cannot be successful without failing anyway. I think some things that can avoid a lot of failure is really to agree on specific mandates and to have the right, KPI set and the right mandate for many different team members. And if you discorrelate what the CVC is doing versus what the open innovation team is doing, you may have some hard time at one point, right? Of course, it depends on the thesis of the CVC, but generally speaking, the governance of large corporations is the one playing a big role. Like, it's really the backbone of the successes of such open innovation practice, because it's so risky that if you don't have true believers that are holding the boat and making sure that we will continue investing until we find successful projects that can yield into something. And of course, it's hard because if after 5 years you didn't do things well and all of your projects are in failure, which successes can you bring? So what I always recommend and what we typically do with large corporations at the beginning is to prioritize the quick wins. So when we, help them putting in place their innovation roadmap, then we prioritize the pain points based on the trends, based on what they've done in the past, what they are lacking, blah, blah, blah. And it's always important, specifically at the beginning, to prioritize those quick wins because it will help us motivate the teams, show metrics to the from bottom up and top down. And those metrics, they will play as a positive domino effect inside the company.
Okay, no, makes sense. Again, like going back, like to and looking at your VC career, I mean, what are like the different topics or beliefs about VC that you've changed most your mind, on, in the last like 12, 24 months? I mean, did you have some belief at the beginning and you had like some sort of disillusion process where you're like, okay, it's not what I thought it was. Like, maybe.
Well, I think, again, the playbook is evolving so fast, pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, now with the AI bubble. I mean, I'm still passionate, still have the same love for meeting entrepreneurs, backing them financially, but supporting them as well and learning. And via, all of those different business opportunities that we are reviewing. Now, things that are changing is the way we are looking at deals, the way we need to support or win deals, and also how we position ourselves. Right now, what we discussed in the past hour on the AI mega deals, the way we are looking at deals, it's totally different to what we would have ever imagined.
So what has changed, like, for example, so now what does it mean in practice? So you see like an AI company today, what has changed in your mind?
Again, it depends a lot on the AI company, right? But if we are speaking about AI mega deals, even when you are an early stage VC and you invest in an AI mega deal, it's totally outside of what you would have imagined. And you know that you may be asked in any case to sell your position at the next liquidity event. So you invest at a super high valuation. Generally, they have not much to showcase, the startups. And you know that if there is a liquidity event, you may do a 3x and that's it. It's a quick X, that you may want to bet on versus, investing early stage with this highly distributed power law where maybe, really few will return, amazing X's versus the other ones that will be called flat or die.
So with your insider view, like, well, you look at the last OpenAI deal, for example, the last investors, what do you think is their targeted cash-on-cash return? So you mentioned quick 3x. Do you think that they are betting on a quick 3x on 100 billion?
It's a really good question. I mean, this is not
what's
even
in
an
their
AI
mind?
mega deal. This is an AI like moonshot or I don't even have a word to describe what's happening. We never seen that. So I don't know what investors that are entering now are expecting. It's a really good question. But I think they position themselves on OpenAI because they feel like OpenAI is the category leader and it's too big to fail. And it will only continue to grow.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think we should close our discussion on that note, a bit of mystery in the air, and keep a bit of suspense. But listen, Thomas, was like super nice to have you on board.
Thank
Really,
you so
thank you
much,
for
guys.
joining us.
Thanks so much.